And we're back working on the Jose 50-watt head. As always, sponsored by 3 Monkeys Solderless, home of the best cables for your stuff. RCAs. Have you ever seen a solderless RCA? Of course not. No one else has it. Have you ever seen a solderless DC kit? No, no one has it. Why? Because there's something here called a US patent. Check us out at 3monkeyssolderless.com. All right, here we go. So we're continuing with the build, and where we last left off is right here, obviously. So what we're gonna do today in this installment is we're gonna install the jacks, and we're gonna do some ground wiring, some wiring of the pots, and get close to getting ready to put the board, the pre-wired board, into the chassis. Dum! All right, so let's start getting this done. First thing we want to do is we want to drill out our 2 holes here for our jack and for our gain stage pot, additional gain stage pot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my unibit, and I'm going to kind of get it here. There we go. That one's drilled out. So that's for our potentiometer, our push-pull pot, which will relate to the added gain stage for the mod, right? It's gonna just go in here like so. So drop that on the floor. Now we're gonna drill out next to it, or above it, below it, however you wanna say it. And there we go. So there we have the next part of the panel drilled out for the jack. I'm just going to vacuum out the plastic, and now we can continue on. All right, so let's start with the jacks, and I'm going to start, actually no, let's not start with the jacks just yet. Let's start with putting in our ground connections for these potentiometers, because the jacks are going to have their grounds right at this location too. So I'm using some bus wire here. I'm going to be going through the potentiometer, and I'm going to kind of be winding it around like so. Get it nice and tight. There we go. Bend it over. Trim it out. Solder it down. Looking good. Okay, so some of you might be wondering why I've got this big black thing on my finger. It's just padding right now. So I've got, it would appear, nerve damage in my hands, particularly my right hand, and that's from using tools in all kinds of ways like this and like that, and wire stripping and all kinds of things. So it became searingly painful at the end of the last video. This finger was doing it a little bit too, but this one had the most amount of problems. So I wrapped some foam around my finger and then taped on top of it. So that would be, I think you'll see that a lot with guys that work with tools a lot, that they're going to end up taping up their fingers a bit. To kind of protect the nerves that run under the skin on your fingers from being squished to the point where they get irritated beyond belief. So we got our middle pot. Probably should have put it a little higher on my finger. It looks like kind of getting a lot of action going just below the fingernail when I'm operating the needle nose. The other thing I was thinking of doing to kind of like help in that situation. There we go. So let me solder. This is maybe to get some new needle nose pliers. Now these have been with me forever, so it's kind of sucks to have to give them up, but they don't have the spring left on them. They don't have insulation left on them. So it's probably not a good idea to be using these at this point. I should probably get some ones with some nice padding on them and have the springs so they open and close and I won't have to use them like this. But that's sort of what I've grown accustomed to. So it's hard to kind of stop. All right, so I'm gonna continue on here. All right, so we're gonna find treble connection right to the master volume, which would be the top one. So it's top to bottom to top to bottom to top. So it would be this one right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and strip it and attach it. It's hard to believe that this kind of stuff can happen to you. You know, these kinds of injuries. So it doesn't seem like, you know, that this should be that bad. You know, just kind of soldering things and working with a pair of pliers for 30 years or whatever it's been doing this stuff. But eventually it does take a toll. So this one hits to the phase inverter. All right, so let's continue. All right, so now we can do our, just our potentiometers. Just getting them all bent in the positions I want them in. All right, now you get cable. We do have a fresh roll of solder on the table. I'm sure some have noticed that. So we're golden with the solder. Right now we got plenty. Fresh roll to continue on from here. Gotta turn the fan on. Forgot about the fan, as always. There we go. Got to keep the stuff from blowing in your face. It's always a good idea. Just crimping that over. It's a little harder to work with this lump of tape on me. I'll be honest with you. That's not solder. I'd be heating that for a long time, trying to get that bus wire to melt. Wrong tool for that. Soldering iron will not do that. Gonna need a TIG. All right, continuing. Once again, grabbing the bus wire instead of the solder. So that's usually where the solder is right there. So I never look at what I'm doing. I just kind of do it from muscle memory where everything is. So this would always go here. So let's get rid of that. Now we won't have the problem anymore. All right, so we have our pot connections looking good. All right, so let's start now with our jacks. All right, that can be gone for later. All right, so first we'll do the furthest jack away from everything, and you'll sort of see why. It just makes it easier to kind of like work in places when you do things this way. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 1 meg resistor, right, and just kind of put it on our jack body. And we're going to wrap it, make a good connection. And trim it down. Need to get the smaller wire for this. All right, got that. So this is sort of like the whole switching system that's, you know, as analog can be for the different gain stages and turning them on and off and moving them in and out of the signal chain. And it's all done with rudimentary jacks. All right, so this is, I guess we should sort of give you some idea. I don't want to get too in the weeds with the whole thing, but this is the normal input jack. So this you would want to have the ability to jump, right, with the lead channel by using just this jump switch, and when there's nothing plugged into here as well. So when you use the jump switch, it also lifts the ground for that particular input jack, so that it becomes, so its corresponding grid is now no longer shunted to ground and becomes alive, and then can receive the signal from the bright channel and to put them in parallel. So basically I'm looking to just pay out some wire to a point right about there. Okay. See, I got that backwards, but there's plenty of wire there. I'm trying to do too many things at the same time. I don't even remember if I tinned this already. I probably did. Got a lot on my mind today for some reason. All right, so this would be the tip shunt sort of switch on one of these cliff jacks. All right, so when there's nothing plugged into this tip gets connected to this point over here, and if that's connected to ground, then that point there is connected to ground, and that point there is what connects to the grid. I don't know if you follow that. But when you plug something into there, it breaks that connection via this little tab here being pushed away from contacting the underlying tab, and then it removes its contact from ground, and then that grid becomes a live signal carrying wire. So this has got to just basically go to ground, right? Here we go, let's get it tucked back in there. Very nice, and this also can get tucked back there. And then that one gets paid up to here. So that, when the double pull double throw, when one half of the double pull double throw switching network, so one set of that will be used for removing and connecting this lug from ground, which will then defeat its switching capacity to ground, if that makes sense. All right, so that is going there. All right, good. All right, so next would be to do the next jack. So in this case, each one of these gets its reference resistor because each one of these is going to a separate grid. And each grid needs a ground reference, which sets its sort of impedance level, which was a high impedance, and this 1 meg resistor being its basic ground reference. When there are other resistors that are hanging off the grid to ground, for instance, in the twin 68K switching or twin 68K mixer resistors that you find in Marshalls, it'll lower the impedance down to a little below 34K, being that one of the 68Ks would be ground referenced. So in this case, each one of these is going to a different grid and needs its own, you know, floor, so to speak, or ceiling, depending upon which way you want to look at it, right? So we have our 1 meg, and now it also makes it hard to hold on to things when one of your fingers has a big old cushion on it. Slowing me down quite a bit. I gotta say, it feels awkward. But what are we gonna do? We're either gonna not work today or we were gonna work today. So we chose working today. So sometimes this is what you gotta do. Deal with the bad to avoid the worse. Right? And I can go get smushed back there. Okay, now we're going to set up the next jack, which will allow for the lead. This is the lead channel jack, right? So this is where the gain stage, the additional gain stage is attached to. And this will allow for basically the bright input to be put in series with the extra gain stage. So you can either have, that's why it's called a three-way. You can either have the normal channel by itself, the lead channel by itself, or the lead channel with a boost before it, or a lead channel with a boost before both of these, right? So it's kind of like, allows you a really good amount of flexibility. Let's put these here because they feel like they're going to fall off. So again, we're going to put in our 1 meg ground reference resistor here. I bet you Gershwin's mom went nuts having to listen to this all day. I mean, he's great and all that, but I don't know what the point of... I guess it had some drama, some sort of chaos to the sound. But it's like, how many notes can you hit? I guess they call that playing outside. How many notes can you hit that are just dissonant enough to work, kind of, but are completely bat crap crazy? I mean, is this the sonic version of Jackson Pollock? You know, just kind of take some paint, like drips of paint, and just throw them on a staff. And then have a highly trained pianist play that. So it sounds, you know, timed very well, good technique, but the notes themselves are just random sort of nonsense, but in a rhythm. That would be like the sonic equivalent of, like, in my mind anyway, like a Jackson Pollock painting. Yeah. So now we have to do a little connection here. All right, so I'm gonna have to reopen this. Here. There we go. And we can just bring it over to the top. Whoops. Wrong place. We also didn't put in our ground across, which we shall do. I'm making all kinds of stuff here. Fold that back. Okay, so now these jacks are basically set up. So we have all of our switches done in place. Now we can bring in, where did I put the potentiometer? Here it is. Right, this is sort of the last thing that goes over here. Need to put in a bolt, a nut rather, and our lock washer. Yep, that's right. That's good. And we can go ahead and put in its ground wire, which will go over to here as well. Where'd I put that little chunk of extra solder? Oh, here it is. The last of the solder. Use every last bit until we get to the next roll. Throw that out. Now there still are a few more connections for grounds that have to go here. So we got to leave some of that open. We're not quite ready yet to solder to everything. Oh, this is kind of pissing me off right now. There we go. So I really want to wrap it around. There we go, and I can push this all back now. All right, so here we are. Then we can do our use bus wire. Is it time? Where did I put the piece of solder? All right, that's starting to really annoy me. We're going to the new roll. New roll in action. I know it's probably sitting in front of my face, but it's right here. So this is basically the reason for this switch right here is to mute the lead channel when it's, if you want like the quietest operation when you're not using the lead channel. All right, so it just will ground out the output as well. as well as the input, right? So you have it grounded on both sides, input and output, which makes it really about as silent as you can make something. All right, so let's continue on. We need to put in our cathode follower resistor here, our 100K in place. So I got my 100K here. Get it ready to go. Okay, that resistor is in place. Let's go over everything we got. All right, so we have our master volume in place, grounded, check. We have our bass, middle, treble pots connected. We have our master connected to our treble pot. We have our master ready to go to the phase inverter. We have our 2 preamps ready to go. We have all our jacks in. Yeah, I think everything here looks pretty good. I think, should we leave it here? Just looking around to see what else we would do in this stage. Really nothing. I mean, right after this, right now, I'd probably start to, you know, put in the board. I would do some of the shielded cable work from the Jose master over to the cathode follower. We could build that. Okay, let's do that. And maybe that would be enough for today. Well, actually, that should be done when the board is in, but we can at least put that in place. So let's get some hardware. Get our screw, I mean, I guess it's a little unconventional, but I mean, I've always built everything by memory. So if I haven't built something, especially now that I'm getting a tiny bit older, perish the thought, if I haven't built something in a while, you know, I got to think for a second or two of what I'm doing. Is it time to do this yet, or is it time to do that yet? Am I up to that place yet? You tilt this up so I can kind of, I'm gonna spin it around too. So I can get at this with my nut driver in my right hand, which is where I like it. I'm just gonna kind of get it in place like that. Tighten it down. Okay, that's good. There we go. So that is what will have our mod on it. Right, there'll be some shielded cable coming to here. There'll be some resistors and capacitors for the cathode, for the plate, for plate coupling, plate resistor, cathode resistor and capacitor, as well as a little bit of a treble bleed for the output of this particular stage. It'll be connected to this jack here, this jack here, which is the lead input jack, and it'll be connected, the output of which will be connected to this potentiometer. And then this you know, we'll be ready we're basically ready to put the board into this amp. We drop it in and start, you know, getting the shielded cables ready to go. So we would just, you know, get everything where we need it, put this guy in, and then start running the cables to where they're supposed to be. So we can just kind of test fit. This has got to come up. Remove that to the side. Get everything nice and tucked where it's supposed to be. Get everything nice and neat. Right grounds where they're supposed to go. This guy's got to come up. All right, but that's pretty much what we look like. And we'd feed our presence pot lead as well as our two grids for the output tubes underneath the board as best we can. Right, we're doing that. We run our ground. So I think this is probably a good place to stop for right now. So when we come back next, we're going to, yeah, because we're at what, almost 40 minutes. So yeah, I think this is a good duration for this video. So thanks for watching, and we'll continue the build shortly. Bye.